Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast.
Hey guys, this is Ricky, and today we're actually answering a question from one of our listeners, and they asked if we have ever had experience or how we deal with when we don't have a coach and how we are to train without them. And we wanted to share both of our viewpoints, and today Dan is going to be sharing how he trains without a coach.
So right off the bat, my coach had to go away for some business, and from the beginning of the whole pandemic, I am basically training. Not from the beginning, halfway through July, I'm training without a coach. And only recently, I found another coach from a different place. I go there, and I train like once every 4 weeks. But still, during that time, I have experimented with different things, found out what's comfortable for me. Just so you know, guys, this is what works for me. This does not. It's not supposed to work for everyone. Everyone's different. But yes. So I started out with listening to different and watching different group classes. For example, Timur Imamedinov had hosted group classes during the very beginning of the pandemic when lockdown became a thing and everything. He would host group classes like once or twice a week. They were fairly cheap and they were really interesting to listen to. It's always nice to listen to the same information but from a different viewpoint um, with different examples of how to do like certain how to pull through different information into your body. So I listened to that. It was very interesting. But I quickly realized that I need a personal trainer to explain that information for me because Timur is a very experienced dancer, as we all know, and not everyone would completely understand what he's trying to say. Of course, not all the information was useless. It's very interesting to listen to what other very experienced dancers have to say, but I didn't really get the full message that he was trying to portray. So, how I started practicing, I had to build a training routine for each training session, for every practice session that we had. I would have to think of a dance that we're doing. Then I'll have to break it down before we actually start training. I'll have to break down what I want to do, what I want to work on. I'll have to talk to my partner and everything we would discuss. And we would try our best to fulfill our ideas that we thought of before the actual training session. Then something that I came along of, filming yourself during practice is very, very useful because looking yourself in the mirror, feeling what you're doing is completely different from what is on tape. Because basically that's the judge's point of view. That's your coach's point of view, what the camera sees. So definitely film yourself and rewatch those videos. Not after the practice, actually during the practice. Let's say you dance one dance or you dance rounds, film them and then sit down and watch them and analyze what you have to do first and then talk to your partner. Like, okay, listen, we just watched it. What did you think? How did you do? And then discuss. If there is stuff that um, you felt uncomfortable with that's coming from your partner, you'll discuss that later. First, you got to focus on what you have to do, what you have to fix, and then focus on how your partner can help you. Because if you're trying to fix your partner first, then it's not going to work because you're still doing some things that are just in the way. You can't have your partner fix them. I'm not making sense. I'm sorry. Basically, just focus on yourself first, then your partner. That really helped because you're seeing a different point of view. The mirror is a completely different point of view. Not really my favorite because I'm not seeing what's happening between those glances at the mirror. Let's say I'm doing Latin. I would go into like a one line and looks good. That's nice. But I don't see what's happening between all the positions that I'm in, all the lines. And actually, those moments are fairly important as well. So, yes, genuinely, just recording yourself, watching it through, and seeing what's wrong, what you don't like. Then, once in a while, I would definitely recommend listening to or watching group classes. Even if they don't make sense, you still get some motivation from it. Maybe if you're training with someone else in the studio, let's say there's another couple, you can discuss it with them, see what their thoughts on it, like on the information that you got from the lessons. Are definitely have a notebook with you when you're watching those group classes. I know some people don't use notebooks because they think they're very smart and they can withhold all that information in their head. That's not true. Don't be that person. Definitely have a notebook with you. Write down what you learned as you're learning it, and look over all of your notes before practice. See if you remember anything that was clear that you were sure about, then you can practice that. If you're unsure about something, don't practice it because you might get it into your muscle memory and it's going to be very hard to unlearn it. So yes. Now as I started dancing, as I started going to a different coach, I'm going every 4 weeks. So I have 4 weeks between each visit to practice the information that I got from that one weekend. I'm taking a lot of lessons at once. In one weekend, I'm taking like 10 lessons. And after, let's say, I drive to Boston, I take my lessons in Boston. I drive to Boston. And on the drive back from Boston, I would just sit down, I'll press record on my phone, and I would just start talking to myself about what happened on each lessons. Usually I'll have someone record us when we're dancing to the music. When the coaches are not talking, they play the music for us and we dance. And then maybe a few comments that they're yelling at us while we're dancing. So I'll have that on camera. I can look through that. But just start talking to yourself while you're recording, explaining everything that you did on your trip. So you have that as reference when you're dancing. Because when you're practicing, because when you leave your lesson and you don't really do anything about remembering it, because when you leave your lesson you remember like 20% if you don't do anything about it. When you write it down, probably remember like 50 to 70% at most. I don't know one person who remembers 100%. I'm sure the greatest dancers in the world don't remember 100% of their lesson. So yeah, definitely record or write down what happened on your lessons. So when you're practicing, you can go back to those notes, see what you're missing out, um, and get as much information you can from those lessons. But that's basically what I do. I'm sure different people have different ways that they remember information, but that's what works for me. So yeah, just a quick explanation of how I train without a coach or a trainer. Nothing too fancy. Simple, straightforward. A lot of discipline is needed for this, but as dancers, I think we learn that as we start dancing. So yeah, thank you for listening, guys. In next episode, Ricky will be explaining how she goes on without a trainer. See you next time, guys.
Bye, guys.